Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Carp. I'm Steve Carpenter, Sports Information Director at Hutchinson Community College, and your host for this podcast. With the coronavirus pandemic still ongoing and no games in the foreseeable future, Conversations with Carp is a way for Blue Dragon Nation to stay connected to the Blue Dragons. Today, my guest is Ryan Hilty, Coordinator of Sports Medicine at Hutchinson Community College. Thanks for taking some time to speak to us today, Ryan.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Folks, you are listening to two of the top 5 longest tenured employees in the Blue Dragon Athletic Department. We're not going to give those numbers out, but I still think, Ryan, yours and mine's years together still doesn't add up to Winkle's.
No. Winkle was here for a long time.
Well, obviously the elephant in the room is the coronavirus pandemic, and right now it's still out of control. We're just simply in unprecedented times, are we? Especially when it comes to sports medicine.
Yes, with the virus going around, it almost kind of reminds me of the H1N1 when I think it was back in 2008 when we had that blow up and that epidemic here. But I think this is a lot worse than what people anticipated on. And so, with athletics and everything, it takes a big toll because we have a huge population with athletes being together and the potential of it spreading. So, with the elimination of sports this year, it's kind of put a damper on things. But I think we're kind of going in the right direction with how everything's being handled.
Not that there's ever a good time for a pandemic like this, but this is probably the timing of it is as much the reason it has spread the way it has. Spring break. You'd mentioned that even before everything really started to get going. You mentioned that after spring break you're going to see a spike in this. So just talk about all those elements that have led to what we are currently facing.
With the pandemic that's going on, the biggest thing that worrying about the spread of it was the fact that everybody coming together in one particular area and being in contact with those people, and then it spreads from one person to another. I think the last thing that I heard that with this virus, unlike the H1N1, is that when one person has the virus, that instead of it spreading to one person like the H1N1, it spreads to multiple people. They say now that one person can infect 3 to 4 people, and so it's put that situation on greater alert. Whereas you have one person that spreads to 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden that person now spreads it to another 3 or 4, and so you get this mass spreading of the coronavirus. And so that it just keeps going on from there, and so that's why you're seeing the widespread of it.
What have you discussed with the coaching staff in terms of information to relay to our student athletes?
Basically, what we have done is we've kind of followed what the CDC has recommended, and that's the practicing of social distancing, keeping people away from large groups. The other thing, too, is personal hygiene is a big one, making sure that, you're constantly washing your hands. For like me right now, it seems like every place I go out, not only do I wash my hands before I get in my vehicle, I use a hand sanitizer out, and then if I have to go into a store, I use it again, and then when I get back in my vehicle, I use it again. So in one trip, I might use it 4 or 5 times. But, the practice of personal hygiene, and the fact that if you are sick, especially running the flu-like symptoms that they are showing, and especially with the fever and the respiratory issues, that you seek medical attention instead of coming to the athletic trainer or your coach. You go straight in, you get tested, so that you're not spreading it to multiple people.
Is there a concern within the medical community where if you get a fever, what I'm trying to say is that's not necessarily symptomatic of you having the coronavirus. It could be regular flu. It could just be a common cold. But are people panicking if they start developing any one of these symptoms? I mean, do you see that? Have you seen reports about people maybe overreacting? And this isn't a situation to overreact, but not every time you get a fever means you're going to have coronavirus.
Yeah, no, they're just saying now that if you have the flu-like symptoms, especially with the fever and the dry cough, that you need to go get tested. And so they're recommending, if you have any of those types of symptoms, that you go get tested to make sure that you're not doing that. But also the fact that if you do have any of those, that you automatically self-quarantine, that you're not spreading it to other people as well. If your family members, that 14-day waiting period of self-quarantining as well.
Yeah, from what you've been able to see, obviously the college has shut down in terms of in-person classes and everything. I think the college has done an extremely proactive job at handling this. But as far as what you've seen around town, even before the statewide stay-at-home order was put into place, it's a lot quieter around town now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. If you come into work at 7:30 in the morning, you'd be in a traffic jam here in Hutchinson, Kansas. But now, you might see 2 or 3 people on the streets. But yeah, you've seen a drastic decline as far as the people being out. The most of the time that I see people being out is they're with themselves, they're walking, in the evening, probably just to kill some time and stuff like that, to pass some time. But you've really seen a decline in the number of people being out in a particular area.
Yeah. Last question about the coronavirus part of what I wanted to speak to you about was: have you seen any kind of information put out? Is this a seasonal type thing? As it gets warmer, will this die out? I mean, I know they're talking about the peak happening here in April, but is this going to be a yearly thing that we may have to worry about?
The stuff that I've seen so far is, they're expecting it to peak here in April, but the biggest thing that I'm hearing now is that that there could possibly be, this is just hearsay, I haven't heard anything yet, but looking into the fall when everybody starts getting confined environments again, that this thing could peak up again with that. So, I've heard that come April, when things start to warm up, that this thing is supposed to die off, but there's a potential that maybe in the fall and wintertime again that this thing could peak up. So I'm not too sure what's going on with everything right now. That's just hearsay, but that's just some things that I'm hearing around this topic here.
Well, let's talk a little normalcy type stuff. You lead a staff of 3 full-time trainers and a staff of a fairly large staff of student trainers. Just kind of go through and tell everybody exactly when things are going normal, what the sports medicine department does at Hutchinson Community College.
With the sports medicine department at the college, we basically take care of athletes when it comes to injury prevention, rehabilitation of injuries, and then also prevention of injuries. Basically we are a healthcare provider system. We take care of athletes that are sick and recommending which way we need to proceed with it. If somebody does get injured that they, severe enough that they need to see a doctor, we set them up with doctor's appointments and get them going. And then also we take care of all the athletes when they get injured or have surgery. We do a lot of rehab for a particular athlete. So we are a healthcare provider system for our athletes.
And you have 2 fully serviceable centers of operation, both in the sports arena and at Gowan Stadium, correct?
Yes. Yep, we do have 2 athletic training rooms. Our main hub is in the sports arena. With the expansion, I think 2 or 3 years ago, with the $30 million expansion, we got a brand new training room. It's definitely quite a lot larger than the one that used to be at the sports arena, and so that's our main hub. That's where our 3 offices are, and then we do have one that's located over in Gowan Stadium, and we are over there in the afternoons when football and track is in season. We open that up for the athletes over there, so we have 2 full serviceable training rooms going on at a particular time during the season for our athletes.
Also with you, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Amanda Beadle and Sarah Lemons, your two full-time athletic trainers. Talk about those two a little bit.
Yeah, Amanda's great. She has come from Southwestern College. She was also in the community college. I believe she went to, or she worked at El Dorado for a little bit, and then was down at Southwestern. Was their trainer down there for several years, and then had an opportunity to come back here, and she has come back up here with that. But she's been a great addition to the staff. She's kind of like my second-hand person. She helps me with football, and then we cover multi-events with it. But she has been great as far as that goes. Sarah Lemons, this kind of dates about how old I am. Sarah was one of my former student athletic trainers, went to Emporia State University once she left Hutchinson Community College, and then currently working on her master's degree, but she went down to, I believe, New Mexico and was a certified athletic trainer down there for a year or two, and then had an opportunity to move back to Garden City, and then was at Garden City for a couple of years, and then had our assistant position open up, and so she has come back a little bit closer to home. She's from Wichita, and so she has been on staff since January, but she's a great addition as well as far as that goes.
Well, we obviously appreciate everything that you do for our athletes. You guys are second to none and the best in the business. We appreciate everything you do. I got to take you back, though. Let's go back to the year 2010 in Grand Junction and the miracle job you pulled on getting Jamel Cervantes back to going. If you remember that first game against Chattanooga State, Jamel stole second, had an awkward slide into second. Of course, at that time we all thought, he'd finally wrecked the hamstrings for the final time. But you went out there, and the very next pitch, you were out there at least good 3 minutes because I remember broadcasting the game. But very next pitch after you were done with Jamel, he takes off and steals third like nothing had ever happened. You remember that happening?
Yes, I do.
So, what was the miracle?
Yeah. So, Jamel's great. He's now at Wichita State. Was back here working with us for a little while, but that was quite the times with him because he's had some issues with that injury and but that's what it takes. If you want to play in a national championship, sometimes you have to get some things out a little bit. But we did our best. We worked with him quite a bit as far as treatments and stuff like that, in the particular evening to just kind of keep us going on that.
You bet. Then, lastly, especially with football, sports information and sports medicine oftentimes ride together in the van and the travel caravans. What's some of your most memorable road trips that we've all been on together? One sticks out. We were coming back from Colorado Springs, and I'll leave it there. But what's maybe one or two of your most memorable road trips in your time here?
I think one of them was Colorado Springs. We had one of my student trainers that was with us by the name of Emily Castens. That's her name now, but it used to be Emily Warman. She's out in Atwood, Kansas now, but she was one of my student trainers. But we're coming back from Colorado Springs from a football game, and the next thing I know, there's a state trooper coming up and pulling up beside me with those lights on. Well, I come to find out it was Emily's uncle. So that was one of them. Let's see. I would say a couple of them were our San Diego trips for women's basketball. Going out there, the Florida trips, those are kind of nice as far as that goes. So.
Well, I appreciate your time and appreciate everything you do for Hutchinson Community College Athletics. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you, Steve.
That was Ryan Hilty, Coordinator of Sports Medicine for Hutchinson Community College, and that'll wrap up another edition of Conversations with Carp. We'll talk to you again soon. So long, everybody.